Hello, my dear friends. In this video, we're going to discuss the most important events that took place over the past 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's get started. First, we're going to talk about Kyiv. Another American media outlet reports that Trump has stopped military aid to Ukraine. A congressional aide familiar with the matter said that the order appears to suspend U.S. military funding to Ukraine, as well as direct bilateral economic aid, the Washington Post reports. Ukrainian officials are trying to find a solution, and currently, Ukraine is negotiating with the European Union to replace U.S. aid due to the suspension of funding from U.S. aid projects. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine has admitted that the country was not prepared for such developments. I remind you that, according to Putin, if Western countries, particularly the United States, stop supporting Ukraine with weapons, ammunition, and arms, Ukraine will only be able to hold its defensive lines for about 1.2 to 2 months. So, let's wait and see whether this will actually happen. Ukraine still has time to initiate a negotiation process, but for this to happen, the Ukrainian parliament should convene and recognize Zelensky as an illegitimate president. Now, some very interesting details are coming from France. Most likely due to this critical situation, France has invited the foreign ministers of the United States, Ukraine, Germany, Poland, Britain, Italy, and Spain to discuss the war in Ukraine on February 12. It is likely that on this date, they will try to form a common position and present it to Kyiv in an attempt to push Ukraine towards starting negotiations. ### situation on the ground. We have many interesting updates, and it seems that either the weather is improving or the operational pause has ended. First, let's discuss the settlement of Vasilivka. After the fall of this settlement, there were no significant reports from this area. However, today the first confirmed update has emerged. According to the latest information, Russian forces have managed to secure territory northwest of the settlement. Currently, the combat line runs exactly along the Mray River. At this moment, we do not have independent confirmation of these claims. If this information is verified, the map will be adjusted in Russia's favor. This could indicate that Russian forces may be planning to cross the Mray River and launch an offensive toward a key Ukrainian stronghold located northwest of the settlement of Fykasilova. Now, let's discuss the situation around the Andriivka fortified area. As you can see from various military reports, the situation for Ukrainian forces in this area is very difficult. Notably, there are no combat action indicators, only flags marking Russian advances from the south, southwest, northeast, and east. There have been numerous changes on the ground. Before we analyze them, let's compare the maps from different dates. For example, by the evening of January 29, 2025, Russian forces had just entered the settlement of Dnipro from the southeast. However, by the morning of January 30th, Russian forces had managed to tighten the noose further around Ukrainian positions in the Kurakov pocket. Now, let's talk about the settlement of Roslivka. According to both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources, Russian forces have made tactical gains as part of their offensive operation and have effectively begun encircling Roslivka. Russian units have strengthened their positions south of the settlement and have also improved their positions between Roslivka, Kostiantynivka, and Daklivka. This situation is extremely dangerous for both Ukrainian and Russian forces. From a Ukrainian perspective, this area forms an artillery pocket, meaning that Ukraine could focus its firepower here and inflict significant losses on advancing Russian forces. From a Russian perspective, if their forces can regroup quickly and launch a fast, decisive attack from this salient, they could either enter the southern part of Kostiantynivka or push into the eastern part of Roslivka. If Russia successfully completes either of these operations, the situation for Ukrainian forces will become not just critical but potentially catastrophic. This could mark the collapse of the entire Ukrainian defensive position in the Kurakov pocket. Furthermore, if Russian forces take control of Roslivka, they will be able to establish fire control, or even physical control, over the main supply road that connects the mainland to the Andriivka fortified area. The situation remains fluid, and we will continue monitoring developments closely. The Russians entering Kostiantynivka will likely result in the same situation as before, but with even more severe consequences for the armed forces of Ukraine. Regarding Roslivka, Ukrainian forces will still have a chance to evacuate their troops toward Andriivka. Although they will suffer losses during this retreat, at least one road remains available for evacuation. It is very likely that Russian forces will attempt to attack in both directions. According to the latest information from pro-Ukrainian sources, Russian forces have improved their positions north of the settlement of Yentar as part of their offensive operations. From this perspective, they are increasing pressure on Ukrainian positions in the fields surrounding the settlement of Dnipro. Regarding the settlement of Dashna, various sources, including pro-Russian sources, have updated their maps, and pro-Ukrainian sources confirm the changes as well. According to the latest information, Russian forces have completely secured the eastern part of Dashna. However, heavy clashes continue in the area. The main objective of these Russian attacks is to pin down Ukrainian forces and prevent them from escaping a potential encirclement. A few days ago, pro-Ukrainian sources published a video showing Russian forces advancing into the territory of Andriivka. If you recall, these sources presented a rather unusual map, showing an island of resistance or offensive activity by Russian forces in the northeastern part of the area. However, the gap between these Russian positions and the mainland was depicted as a contested or gray zone. While the exact territorial control remains unclear, the most critical update is that, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, Russian forces have continued advancing over the past 24 hours. They have reportedly secured several more buildings, tightening their grip on the region. If we measure the distance between the potential frontline positions of Russian forces in the southern part of the Andriivka fortified area and the northeastern direction, it is now less than 5 kilometers. While it is too early to confirm a complete encirclement, the situation is undoubtedly moving in that direction. If current trends continue, Ukrainian forces may be forced to withdraw from this territory within 1 to 2 weeks. Losing the Andriivka fortified area would place Ukraine at risk of losing even more territory, as Russian forces would be in a position to expand their advances further. The so-called Andriivka flower is about to bloom, signifying a major breakthrough in the Russian offensive. As you can see, we have made significant adjustments to the map. The settlement of Nov Andriivka has now been fully marked as under Russian control. Previously, this area was considered contested, but there is no longer any doubt that the village has been captured by Russian forces. This conclusion is supported by multiple independent mapping sources and visual evidence. In a video published by the Ukrainian side within the past 12 hours, Ukrainian forces were seen using Bradley infantry fighting vehicles to counterattack Russian positions along the tree line west of Nov Andriivka. While it is possible that Ukrainian forces regained control of this tree line, the broader situation suggests otherwise. Pro-Ukrainian sources still depict this tree line as under Russian control. More importantly, all areas beyond this tree line have already been captured by Russian forces. Based on this video evidence and multiple map updates, we have adjusted the strategic situation in Russia's favor. Russian forces are now positioned to launch an offensive further westward. It is highly likely that the battle for the settlement of Svatov will begin soon. Entering Svatov would mark the final phase of the battle for this network of small settlements. Over the past 24 hours, Russian sources have reported additional progress on the ground. According to various pro-Russian sources, as a result of offensive operations, Russian forces have taken control of several key positions. Further updates on the situation in this direction will follow as new developments emerge. Ukrainian positions along the railways have been reported as compromised, but no concrete evidence has been provided to confirm this. Most importantly, I'd like to remind you that the 425th Separate Battalion has published at least 2 videos over the past 5 days showing Ukrainian forces counterattacking in the southeastern direction of K. As a result, we have doubts about the claims of additional Russian progress in this area. Despite ongoing battles, Ukrainian forces still maintain a presence in Pakro, regularly releasing videos depicting the situation on the ground. Most buildings in the area have been damaged, but they remain structurally intact, meaning Ukrainian troops could potentially reoccupy them if they were to return. Preserving the city of Pakro for future use appears to be one of the primary objectives of the Russian armed forces. The situation in the city of Taz remains highly contested. Ukrainian forces continue launching counteroffensives in the northern sector, particularly near the M sector of Tata, aiming to prevent Russian forces from securing complete control over the area. Although the Russians have managed to capture approximately 99% of the city, they have yet to secure full control of the last remaining portion. According to recent reports, within the past 24 hours, Russian forces successfully secured the forested area between the microdistrict of Noy and the last microdistricts of Sivers's southern section. These are the latest territorial changes, confirmed by pro-Ukrainian sources. Heavy clashes are ongoing in the citadel area, where Russian forces are likely preparing for a final assault. Recent footage shows Russian artillery shelling Ukrainian positions in the city center, utilizing TOS-1A flamethrower systems. We may see further changes in territorial control soon. Additionally, Ukrainian sources have published numerous photos showing the current state of Chavar. Unlike the heavily devastated eastern sector of the city or the city of Fans, large portions of Chavar remain structurally intact. Nevertheless, it is estimated that at least 50% of Chavar has been reduced to ruins. While not entirely obliterated, the damage is extensive. Russian sources also released footage from the Pitch microdistrict, confirming that it was fully secured by Russian forces the previous day. However, according to geolocated information from past updates, this area had already been under Russian control for some time. A particularly intriguing video has emerged from the area between Bakhmut and Ivanivsk, showcasing a new version of Russia's Turtle tank. The footage reveals a heavily armored tank, indicating ongoing improvements to Russian military technology aimed at increasing resilience against Ukrainian drone attacks. The same video also shows Russian forces evacuating an abandoned Ukrainian BTR infantry fighting vehicle. This suggests ongoing battlefield recovery operations and tactical refinements in armored warfare. Today, Russian sources published footage of an attack on Ukrainian positions in the central sector of Nikamensk. The video shows multiple Russian tanks and infantry fighting vehicles advancing toward the settlement. Ukrainian forces appear to be withdrawing under pressure. During this assault, Russian troops deployed the heavily armored Turtle tank, conducting a rapid and likely unexpected attack. As a result, they successfully breached the central part of Nikamensk and initiated clearing operations. Based on this footage, we have updated the territorial control maps accordingly. The Russians are advancing in a southeastern direction, and everything beyond this newly captured area is now assumed to be under Russian control. This is a significant offensive maneuver. By executing this attack, Russian forces have effectively cut off a Ukrainian company-sized stronghold in the easternmost section of the settlement, creating an encirclement. Ukrainian troops positioned here are now trapped in a cauldron. The next phase for Russian forces is to consolidate their positions, repel Ukrainian counterattacks from the west, and further encircle the remaining defenders. If Russian troops can successfully carry out additional operations targeting the stronghold in the eastern sector, they will likely secure complete control of the area. With this new foothold, Russian forces are poised to launch a broader offensive towards Sivsk. Control over these positions will enable deeper advances westward, setting the stage for potentially significant developments in the early or late spring campaign. Over the past 24 hours, there have been no major developments in the Kupiansk direction. Meanwhile, in the Svatov sector, defense sources report that Russian forces have improved their positions along the border, taking control of key strongholds along the Ukraine-Russia border. While no visual evidence has been provided, this could be a critical staging point for further advances into Ukrainian territory, particularly along the N07 highway.